The Championship always has and continues to be a brutal league for managers. We've had 35 permanent managers in the second tier this season, and since the start of the 2022-23 season, we've been averaging a manager change every 14 days. But despite how ruthless it can be, it always provides a brilliant opportunity for managers to show what they can do, and the good ones always rise to the top. So who's been the best and worst this season? Let's find out. I'm Dilks from the second tier, and today I'm ranking every manager who's managed in the Championship this season. We start with number 35, Ryan Lowe, Preston North End. Ryan Lowe was literally in charge of one game, which he lost before resigning, so really hard to justify putting him in any other position on this list. Overall, he did a decent job at Preston, but if we're basing it on what he's done this season, he's literally averaging 0 points. 34, Eric Bullitt, Cardiff City. Cardiff had one of the worst starts to a season in Championship history, just winning 1 point from their first 6 games before Bullitt was sacked. It was incredibly disappointing for a manager who led them to a mid-table finish last season, but Bullitt got Cardiff's poor season off to a terrible start, and he's lucky Ryan Lowe did what he did, otherwise he would be at the very bottom or top of this list, whichever way you want to look at it. 33, Rob Edwards, Luton Town. Rob Edwards' stock was so high prior to this season. He was lauded for Luton's efforts in the Premier League, and he was even being linked with the Ipswich Town job if Kieran McKenna were to leave. But instead, he's been one of the main factors, possibly even the main factor, behind Luton's disastrous season. They've been by far the biggest underachievers of the year. His tactics, his man management have set Luton on course to become the first side to suffer back-to-back relegations to League One in 7 years, in an era where newly relegated sides from the Premier League almost never struggle. It's been an absolute dumpster fire of a season, and Rob Edwards has played a major role in that. It'll be very interesting to see how he does in his next job. 32, Valérien Ismaël, Blackburn Rovers. It's still very early days for Ismaël, having only been appointed a month and a half ago, but he's had an atrocious start. A run of 5 losses has completely destroyed Blackburn's chances of getting a playoff place, and even though he got his first win at the weekend just gone, there's already a lot of debate about whether he'll be in charge again next season. 31, Wayne Rooney, Plymouth Argyle. This may have been the job that killed off Wayne Rooney's managerial career. Don't get me wrong, it took one hell of a beating at Birmingham City, but this is probably the one that's polished it off. In fairness to Rooney, Plymouth did start alright under him and got some good results along the way, but it soon went wrong and became very apparent that if Plymouth didn't make a change, they were going down without a trace. 30, Tim Volter, Hull City. The German came in and promised what he called heart attack football because it would be so exciting. What we got was the exact opposite. Aside from a 3-game winning run around the end of September, Volter never showed us why Hull thought he was a better option to take them forwards than Liam Rosenior. His start is the main reason why Hull have been fighting to stay up all season. This was just a very strange appointment. 29, Narcis Palach, Stoke City. This was also a strange appointment. Palach was brought in after Stoke sacked Steven Schumacher because they said they wanted to go in a different direction. He's a very highly rated coach, but aside from a 6-1 thrashing of Portsmouth, he never convinced as a manager at the Potters. Surprisingly, Stoke's underlying data was actually slightly better under Palach than it would go on to be with his successor, Mark Robins, but the questionable decision to appoint Palach has left Stoke fighting to stay up all season. 28, Omar Ritza, Cardiff City. This was a pretty questionable appointment as well. Ritza was Cardiff's caretaker manager and had a pretty good start, going on a 6-game unbeaten run, but then results started to turn, and despite going on a winless run of 5 games, he was still given the permanent job anyway. And since then, Cardiff have just been lingering around the bottom 3 all season after just 5 wins in 29, and it's now got them in the position where it's looking very likely that they're going down. There'll be a lot of factors involved if Cardiff do get relegated, but giving Omar Ritza the permanent job based off a very brief run of form is definitely going to be a massive contributing factor. 27, Paul Warne, Derby County. A bit of a mixed one with Warne. It's very easy to forget he had Derby sat mid-table at Boxing Day, but then everything really went downhill. 7 straight losses saw them drop like a stone, and Warne clearly had no idea what to do to stop the rot. If Derby had sacked him earlier, they probably wouldn't be in as tenuous a position as they are right now. So 2 very different sides of the coin with him. 26, Mark Robins, Coventry City / Stoke City. I'm putting Robins quite low on this list because I'm comparing him to his usual standards. If you keep them in mind, this has been easily the worst season he's had in a long time. He was sacked by Coventry after 7 years in the job, with them sat 17th, having apparently fallen out with his long-time assistants, and then he went to Stoke, where for a long time he had next to no positive effect, although they seem to be now stumbling over the safety line. It's been a season though where we've seen his stock fall quite drastically, and despite everything he achieved at Coventry City, we're yet to see any evidence yet that he's the man to turn things around at Stoke City. 25. Des Buckingham, Oxford United. Quite hard to place Des Buckingham because he started well with Oxford, an Oxford side who have one of, if not the smallest budget in the league. It was sat mid-table up until the end of October, but things very quickly went off the rails after a run of 7 losses in 9. It led to Oxford making a change, and things have obviously gone a lot better since he left, but considering what he did at the start of the season with the tools that he's got at his disposal, that deserves recognition. 24. Stephen Schumacher, Stoke City. A very strange one with Schumacher. He was sacked after just 5 games with Stoke, saying they wanted to go in a different direction, that direction apparently being towards the relegation zone. Because Schumacher was doing alright, Stoke may have gone on to have had a season similar to the one that they're having anyway, but the fact he's higher on this list than the other 2 managers Stoke have had this season says a lot about their decision making. 23. Matt Bloomfield, Luton Town. Maybe I'm being slightly generous here with Bloomfield because as things stand, Luton will be going down on his watch. But he was thrown into a very tricky position, and while it took a while for things to get going, Luton have shown their best form of the season under him. Admittedly, that is a low bar, but if they go down, I don't think Bloomfield should be held responsible for what has been a disaster of a season for Luton. 22. Johannes Hoff-Thurup, Norwich City. I was quite excited about the appointment of Thurup at the start of the season, but it's been a pretty disappointing campaign for Norwich. A lot of what's gone wrong this season may not be down to him, but the number of points they've lost from winning position, for example, is down to him. And if they finish in the bottom half like they're currently on course to do, they'll without a doubt be the second biggest underachievers in the division this season, behind obviously Luton. There's no need to panic because this can be put down as a transition season at Norwich with a lot of change at every aspect of the club, but Thurup has got a lot of proving to do going forwards. 21. Miron Muslic, Plymouth Argyle. Just so we're on the same page, I'm not considering Plymouth's cup run in this, just purely league results. And as things stand, Plymouth will be going down, but Muslic deserves credit for making Plymouth more competitive than they were under Wayne Rooney. They've got a fighting chance of staying up. It's still a very, very slim chance, but a fighting chance is all they would have asked for heading into these final few games. 20. Tony Mowbray, West Bromwich Albion. Mowbray is one of the most universally loved managers around, and it seemed like a shrewd move by West Brom to get him in after the departure of Carlos Corberán. His appointment's perhaps not had the desired effect so far. They've had some good results, but if they miss out on the top 6, it will be a disappointment for all involved at the Hawthorns. 19. Neil Harris, Millwall. Millwall surpassed expectations earlier on this season. Harris had them sat 7th at the start of November, but a run of 6 games without a win saw them drop off, and even saw Harris criticising Millwall fans. He would leave the club in mid-December with the Wall sat 13th. Overall, a decent job. 18. Luke Williams, Swansea City. I think Luke Williams was quite unlucky to lose his job at Swansea. They were going alright up until the new year and flirting with the playoffs. But then a series of factors, including Williams not shutting down links with the West Brom job, led to them losing 7 in 9 and him getting sacked. In a different set of circumstances, Swansea may be in the playoff race right now with Luke Williams in charge, but unfortunately a lot of things conspired against him. This video is brought to you by our good friends at SBK. If you haven't heard of them yet, then where have you been? SBK's comprehensive range of markets and exclusive offers makes it the best place to bet on the Championship this season. Whether you're creating an accumulator or customising your bet builder, SBK has got you covered. Don't believe us? Sign up today and find out. 17. Paul Heckingbottom, Preston North End. A manager with a lot of mid-table energy at a club which stinks of mid-table energy. Preston had a poor start with Ryan Lowe's sudden departure, so Heckingbottom did well to carry them away from any potential relegation dogfight. But it was always going to be a surprise if Preston didn't end up finishing mid-table, and they're actually currently on course for their lowest league finish in the past decade. Is that all down to him? No, but it's not like he's particularly overachieving either. 16. Michael Carrick, Middlesbrough. This ranking is sort of in the pending section. If Middlesbrough get in the playoffs, he'll probably be higher. If they don't, then he'll definitely be lower. I've covered it in a previous video on this channel, but if Middlesbrough miss out on the playoffs again, considering the money they've spent, it would be a massive underachievement. However, if Borough do get in the playoffs, it would just be the second time in the past 8 seasons that they've managed to do that, which would be progress. I feel like they should still be in a better position than where they are currently recently though, so it's very hard to say whether this has been a good season or not for Michael Carrick. 15. Marty Cifuentes, Queen's Park Rangers. A bit of an up and down season for old Marty. QPR had a terrible start, winning just one of their first 16 games. They were bottom of the table, and it looked like Cifuentes was very close to getting sacked. But then they would suddenly become one of the form teams in the division, winning 8 of their next 12 games. And then they would follow that up with 8 losses in 11, so a pretty bizarre season for QPR, which is really centred around one good run of form. Ultimately though, QPR are 15th, that's round about where many expected them to finish this season, and would be a decent outcome considering the turmoil of the previous season. 14. Alan Sheehan, Swansea City. Sheehan's only had a brief spell at Swansea after being given the job until the end of the season following the sacking of Luke Williams in February, but he's really turned around their form and seen them win 5 of his 9 games in charge so far. This has really got to be seen as an audition for him to get the job full time, and with that in mind, it's gone really well so far. 13. Ruben Sellers, Hull City. Hull were an absolute mess when Ruben Sellers came in. They were in serious danger of going down and were in a state of flux on and off the pitch. He's managed to steady the ship though, and should keep them up. The annoying thing is they've been looking like they should climb away from the relegation zone on plenty of occasions so far without actually doing it. They've had some very impressive results like beating Sheffield United and Sunderland, drawing with Leeds, but they've also had much less impressive ones like losing to Cardiff, Stoke and Luton. Overall, if Sellers keeps Hull up, he'll have done a good job and should be able to show more of what he's about going forwards. 12. John Mousinho, Portsmouth. Portsmouth had one aim this season, and that was to stay up, and despite a couple of shaky runs along the way, they look like they should be able to do it. Not too long ago, they were looking like they may actually finish mid-table, so it's somewhat disappointing that they couldn't go on and do that. But Portsmouth have one of the smallest budgets in the division, so just staying up will be a great achievement for Mousinho. 11. Carlos Corberán, West Bromwich Albion. King Carlos was just doing what he always does at this level, and that is a bloody good job. Despite an incredible amount of draws, he had them once again competing for the playoffs, and that's despite him being very open about how difficult it was working under the financial constraints that West Brom have been under. He would then leave just before Christmas to join his boyhood club Valencia, and it says a lot about how good a job he's done at West Brom that no Baggies fans hold any ill will towards him for leaving. 10. Alex Neil, Millwall. Alex Neil has been at Millwall for a fair while now, and for the most part wasn't doing anything too stand-outish. Up until mid-February they hadn't got out of the bottom half under Neil, so it looked like their season was fizzling out under him. But all of a sudden in the last few weeks they found a brilliant bit of form and look like they may be having a late charge for the playoffs. Whether they get there or not is another thing, but it looks like the Lions are having a positive end to their season, and for that Alex Neil deserves a decent ranking in this list. 9. Scott Parker, Burnley. Burnley are probably getting promoted now, so it may be a bit strange seeing their manager this low on this list, but the way I look at it is this: most of the managers above Scott Parker in this list have overachieved this season. Burnley haven't really overachieved or underachieved, they just achieved. At the start of the season the aim was to get promoted. Looks like he's doing that. Has he done it playing exciting football? No. Have Burnley been particularly impressive in a lot of their games this season? No. But he's got them promoted, and he's done it having spent £50 million along the way. You get what I'm hinting at here. Don't get me wrong, promotion is always an achievement, but with the circumstances which I'm talking about here, I find it very hard to justify putting him any higher in this list. 8. Daniel Farke, Leeds United. Again, not very often I would put a manager this low in this list when he's probably winning promotion this season, but it's pretty much the same rationale as Scott Parker. The only difference is Leeds have been a lot more convincing and a hell of a lot more entertaining. Not too long ago, Leeds looked as if they were going to be cruising to promotion, and if they did that without having their big wobble, I would have without a doubt put Farke maybe a few places higher in this list. But ultimately the task was to win promotion, and Farke looks like he should be getting that over the line. 7. Frank Lampard, Coventry City. Yeah, you know what, I'm not a huge Frank Lampard fan, but fair play, he's done very well since coming in at Coventry. The reason he's not higher in this list is because Coventry were massively underachieving anyway. They should have never been as low as they were. But Lampard's got them playing again, he's got their season back on track, which was the minimum aim for him when he came in. 6. Chris Wilder, Sheffield United. Up until a couple of weeks ago, Chris Wilder would probably have been top of this list. It's very, very impressive managing to turn Sheffield United around after how abysmal they were in the Premier League last season. And at various times they've been top of league despite having a 2-point deduction, but it's very, very hard to ignore their recent capitulation and how Wilder has dealt with it. If they end up getting promoted from here, then he'll be back top of this list, but after being in the top 2 for most of the season, it'll be a massive disappointment if they don't get promoted. 5. Regis Lebris, Sunderland. Yes, Sunderland faded out of the automatic promotion race, but it's easy to forget that 4th place is an incredible achievement for them. They would have ripped your arm off for that after the disappointment at the the end of last season, but it's been a huge year of progress under Lebris. The way he's developed young players and taken their game to the next level as well is very, very impressive. Lebris deserves so much credit for the season Sunderland have had. 4. Gary Rowett, Oxford United. Back when Gary Rowett was appointed, Oxford were in deep trouble. They had lost 8 from 10 and were second bottom. In comes Rowett, the wily old fox, and Oxford go on a 9-game unbeaten run. They did go on to struggle a bit after that, but Rowett had one job this season. That was to keep Oxford up, and it looks like he's done that. Considering the position they were in when he joined and the budget that they have, it's a superb achievement to keep them up, and he's proven once again to be one of the most savvy managers at this level. 3. Liam Manning, Bristol City. The man who might finally be breaking Bristol City out of their mould of being a boring mid-table side. I think many fancy Bristol City to have a season better than the ones that they've had previously, but for them now to be on course to get a playoff place is absolutely sublime. Keep in mind, despite several attempts, it's been 17 years since Bristol City last finished in the top 6 of the Championship. In fact, they've only had one top 10 finish at this level in the past decade. So to do what Liam Manning's done this season, as well as develop a lot of the young talent at Ashton Gate, it deserves a lot of commending. 2. Tom Cleverley, Watford. If you cast your mind back to the start of the season, Watford were in a world of trouble. The squad was looking weak and in dire need of investment, which it wasn't getting from its owners. Many were predicting them to go down, so the fact they've not been in danger of doing that all season, and in fact been looking more towards the playoffs, is remarkable. Tom Cleverley has defied the odds and single-handedly pulled Watford in the right direction. Despite problems with every other aspect of the club, he has done terrifically well. And finally, number 1 in this list, John Eustace, Blackburn Rovers / Derby County. How many managers have there been in the history of football who have had manager of the season worthy spells at 2 different clubs in the same season? Well, John Eustace has. He took a Blackburn side with limited resources who many were fearing for at the very start of the season and made them into a genuine playoff contender. And then he's gone to a Derby side who are looking absolutely hopeless and destined for relegation, and has got them in a position where they look like they may now stay up. He's had 2 jobs this season and defied the odds on both occasions. That, plus the uniqueness of this scenario, means that for me, John Eustace has to be top of this list. So there we have it. This has been me ranking every manager in the Championship this season. Do you agree with me? Who do you think should be higher or lower in this list? Let me know in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe for more content like this. I've been Ryan Dilks from the Second Tier, and a big thank you for watching.